I want to take this old tractor to the Thresherman show this weekend, but she needs a little work first, so let's get started on it. It's a 1936 Farmall F30. I bought it about 4 years ago and drug it home and had to pull the head on it, give it a valve job. It had been sitting up about 30 years in a barn. I'll throw some pictures up here of where it was, where I dug it out. It had stuff piled on it and all around it. It took me 2 or 3 hours just to get it dug out of the barn. Anyway, pulled the head off, gave it a valve job. And the old girl fired right up, ran pretty good. It was a little bit loud because the main bearings were gone in it. Main bearings are really big ball bearings, by the way. You got to tear the motor completely apart to change them. I was going to leave well enough alone. Then all of a sudden, it started dumping a bunch of water down in the oil. So I ended up tearing it apart, figuring out what was wrong with it. Ended up being a sleeve that had a crack in it. Well, I bought a sleeve and, you know, gasket set and everything else to put it back together. Well, it got pushed to the side. It stayed tore apart, laying in the basement for a couple years. Last year, about this time, I decided, well, let's put the old girl back together and we'll take her to the Thresherman show. Well, that didn't happen because I put it back together and I couldn't get the sucker to start for nothing. Fooled with it for a couple of weeks and she'll start now, but not real good. You really have to crank on it. Used to 2 or 3 pulls on the crank and she was fired up. Now sometimes you have to windmill that crank and it still won't start. Anyway, what the main problem is now is the head gasket is leaking. It's an old steel head gasket and I don't like them, so I've got a fiber head gasket and we'll put on it. It leaks water and oil externally, and that may be part of the reason why it doesn't want to start real good. So we're going to go ahead and tear it apart, tear the head off, and put a new head gasket on it. But what I want to do first is start it up, and I'm going to move it about right here under this shade tree, because I'm not going to get done with it today, so that way tomorrow it'll be in the shade. So let me put some gas in it and we'll see if the thing will start up. There's a sequence to starting this old tractor. Let me show you. You get your crank, I usually leave it sitting right there. And you bring it around front here. You stick it on that. This is your choke lever. You pull on it. And we turn some gas on here. Then here's your throttle. I usually do, I don't know, about right there. And then this lever up here is your timing lever. All the way up kills it. That grounds it at the magneto. All the way down is fully retarded. Well, normally you want to start it fully retarded or up a little bit, but I think this might be part of the issue why it don't want to start. I think it needs more timing than what I can give it. So I'm gonna pull that almost all the way fully advanced. Normally you don't want to do that because it'll kick back and hurt you, but like I said, I think timing is the issue, possibly anyway. So I'm gonna leave it right there, and then I'm gonna set y'all on the camera stand. We'll crank on it, see if the old girl will start. Oh, you always make sure these old tractors are neutral, because they'll start in gear and they'll run you over. Always leave my can on the exhaust. I like to see how high I can make it shoot. Here we go. Well, I don't believe it's going to start. Let me give it a little more throttle. I might have to windmill it here in a minute. Yep. All right, here we go. was backwards on the timing. All the way up kills it, but then almost all the way up is fully retarded, and all the way down is fully advanced. You're supposed to have it, oh, you know, probably about the middle way, but I had a little bit retarded starting it. But I still think that that may be part of the issue why this thing don't start like it used to. So what we might do after I get the head gasket changed is come in here in this governor, and we may advance that timing just a little bit, see if that don't help it. Anyway, what I got to do first is pull the steering shaft loose, get it back out of the way so I can get the hood off, and then I got to get the gas tank off. I got to get the exhaust intake manifold off. Of course, that means carburetor and all that's got to come off. This water log's got to come off, and then the valve cover and the valve train, and then we can pull the head off. So let me get started doing all that. Firstly, let's shut the gasoline off. Then secondly, I got to drain the water out of it. All right, this thing holds several gallons of water. Didn't fill that thing half full probably. Darn, that went in my mouth. Off that drains, let's get this steering loose. Get it loose, come on loose. All right. What in the devil? Then we got to get the gas tank loose. I think I need a wrench for it. I need to get the gas line loose. Now I must take the gas line loose from the carburetor washer and the gasoline tank. Hope there's no deadly spider in this spider web. All right, fuel line is loose. Get them bolts loose on the hood and get it out of the way. What size are you little bolts? Or whatever size that is. I just remember the gas tank don't have to come off. I don't know why I thought it did. Anyway, let me get this and this loose. We'll take the manifold off. Let's get this bolt. Get this bolt loose. Why am I using a wrench when I got an impact? I don't know. Now you get out of the way. You get out of the way. Now let me get the choking rod loose. What is next? What is next? Let's take his temperature sensor loose. What size are you, little feller? You're the crescent wrench size. Now, let's go ahead and pull the exhaust and intake manifold assembly. I hope I don't tear that gasket because I do not have another one. If I tear it, then we are done. Well, so this little fella don't want to come off. I can't pry on it. I'm gonna tear that gasket up. So, what am I going to do? Well, darn. Come on. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Get out of my way. I do believe the gasket will be okay. Might have to put a little RT&V on it, but it'll be okay. I'm trying to remember how I used to take this apart. You know, I took these bolts here out of this water log. I was going to separate it here. Well, then the water pump has got a little neck over there that bolts into the same piece. But I think, if I ain't mistaken, I used to take that radiator loose. Down here is the bolt on either side. And take this hose clamp off and just lean it forward and get it off this hose clamp. I think that's what I used to do. Let me try it and see. Because that way I won't have to make two gaskets. This right here, it can be aggravating to get it back together. So let's loosen that radiator up and see what happens. All right, I went ahead and got all the voltages loose. There was one here, one on the other side, and there's 4 nuts underneath there. You gotta take that hose clamp off. You gotta take that hose clamp off. And then all you do, if I remember right, I just would push, oh yeah, there it goes. Push that out of there like so. Then let that water log come on up. So, well, I guess first, let's go over and get the valve cover off. And I gotta take the valve train loose. I gotta get that there Earl line loose. What size are you? Are you a 9/16? Oh yeah, you a 9/16. Now this valve cover, well, let me get you in here and explain some things to you. That thing's sweating like crazy too. Huh. Now this valve train used to, all you would do in the morning is you take that cap off right there. You'd pour you some oil in it. There was felt that laid in here, and it would just drip oil onto your rocker arms wherever they pivoted, and that was it. Well, when I bought the tractor, this line here was plumbed up here to the top of the valve cover. And you got a valve here where you can regulate the flow. And, you know, it puts oil up here constantly. Well, the bad thing about doing that is there's no valve seals. So the oil just goes right down, gets sucked right past the intake stems. And it smoked like a freight train when I would turn this valve on and let the oil flow. Well, I decided that I wanted that oil flow up here because the old valve train was just wore out. It could be from, you know, never getting oil, but I wanted oil pumping up here. So what I did, of course the head was off. I machined all of the valve, what are they called? Valve guides. Machined all of them for valve seals. I searched for 2 or 3 days to find the right valve seals. I can't remember what they fit. I think it was some Cummins diesel. Anyway, I machined them down and put the valve seals on them, on the intake anyway. And that allowed me to run oil up here all the time without it sucking it past the intake valve stem. Well, here's another problem though. There's no return down to the oil pan. Right here at the head. So what I had to do, or at the bottom of the head anyway, I had to drill a couple of holes, drain back holes, to let it go back down into the oil pan, and that pretty much solved that problem. Now I had some know-it-alls online that said, oh, you can't do that, it's not possible. Well, I showed them that it's possible. Anyway, now I gotta get all this off, and then we'll be ready to pull the head off, I do believe. I forgot one thing about the oiling. You know, back in the old days, you know, they did, like I said, they just put oil up here and the felt would soak it up and then drip it down on the valve train. Well, like I said, there was no way for that oil to get back to the oil pan. It would sit right down in here. Well, you know what I did, I drilled a couple of drain holes, like I said, but what they would do back then is every day or week or whatever, you know, the oil would build up in here a little bit. Well, see this plug? They'd take that plug out. It probably had an elbow on it. They'd take that plug out and catch the oil in a can, and they would use that oil to oil stuff on the tractor or just wherever. But yeah, that's how they did it back then. And I'm just now seeing this rust. This hadn't ran in a while, but I don't like that at all. It seems to condensate under that valve cover quite a bit. That ain't no good. And another thing about having oil running up here constantly, this valve cover gasket. Well, the valve cover itself wasn't meant for this, and it leaks quite a bit. So sometime or another, I've got to figure out how to keep that from leaking so bad. Anyway, let's get this stuff here off. Y'all help me remember how this goes. Well, I ain't gonna remember. I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. That's a different size. I believe it is a 5/8. I got to find it. Well, come off of there. Oh, excuse me, sir. All right. Come on out. Come on out. Now let's get the pushing rods out. Well, let's go back to the other side and we'll get that water log off first. Let me go get a rubber hammer and peck on that, see if I can get it broke loose. I'll be dead playing. I just dropped my darn hammer in this bucket of antifreeze. I swear. If it was not for bad luck, I shall have no luck at all. Now let's gently peck on it. Well, let me go get a pry bar. All right, let me see if I can get this pried loose. Oh my goodness. Let's try it right here. Oh yeah, there she went then. There she went. Get under there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we got her now. Now I need to lean this radiator back a little bit more. Yeah, come on up over there. Ooh. There she is, right there. Now I need to get the rest of the head bolts or nuts off. Then that head will be ready to come off. Lord have mercy, this thing is so heavy. Now let me tell y'all about this head. It weighs approximately 2,572 pounds. Pretty heavy. And you're gonna see me struggle, so don't make fun. Oh, do not make fun. Ooh. Oh, come on now. I just ain't nowhere to grab a hold of. Oh, yep, all right. All right, here we go. Oh, it's mashing my finger. Get that out of the way. Yeah. Come on. Oh yeah, here we go. Lord have mercy, that's heavy. Woo. Now, let me get down off this ladder, and then we'll get this head down. Oh, my knee. Oh, my knee. Here we go. Maybe. Lord have mercy, this thing is heavy. Oh, woo. Woo. Let me get this gasket out of the way. Come on. Get that up here. Well, that was not fun at all. I'm telling you, that head is pretty doggone heavy. But anyway, here it is. There's the pistons and the cylinders. Last year when I put it together, the oil rings were just toast. I couldn't find any, made for an F30. Well, I got to measuring and studying. And a 427 big block Chevrolet oil rings, stock bore, exact same thing. So I bought a set and put them on here, and they seem to be doing great. I want to take this handhold cover loose and show y'all the main bearings, how big they are. They're just ginormous. Let me get this off real quick. Right there where my finger's pointing. And also, see that weld? Well, I got a little carried away when I put it back together last year. I may or may not have broke that little piece there, and I may or may not have welded it back on. It'll be all right though. But that is a ginormous. It's probably the OD. It's probably over 6 inches. It's a pretty good sized bearing. Anyway, it's getting dark. I'm gonna cover this up tomorrow morning. We'll start putting it back together. Well, it's the next day. I done cleaned the head up, but I meant to show y'all before I cleaned it up that there was a little bit of liquid looking stuff in each combustion chamber on his head, and most likely water. So that very well could have been the hard start issue. Anyway, I got it cleaned up. Here is the old metal gasket, and I don't see any evidence of anything wrong with it. It just didn't work. Here is the new one. It's a steel core with a, I guess it's sort of like a rubbery type on either side. This is what I normally use. That's a really good gasket. Anyway, let me get the valve train stuff cleaned up, and then we'll start putting this thing back together. Well, I got her all cleaned up. This head gasket's got a name on it. Thermo seal. Clinger seal. Anyway, it doesn't have this is the upside or this is the downside, so I don't think it matters which way it goes. So I'm gonna put her on. Then we're gonna go in there and get that head that weighs about 4,082 pounds and try to wrestle it back on here. Lord have mercy, this is heavy. Let's see if I can get up here. Oh yeah! Woo! All right, here we go. Hopefully, I don't mash my fingers. Oh yeah. Let's see. Darn. Come on now. Ow. Yeah. There we go. Come on. Ooh. Come on down. Are we down? Oh yeah. Woo. That's rough on the old feller. Now that I got the head on, I gotta take this water log in there and clean it up. And I'm gonna have to make a gasket because I don't have one. So let me go do that. I wanted to show y'all how I make a gasket. I buy this in really big rolls on Amazon. And basically all you do is you lay it up here where you want it. And you either take a hammer, go along and peck the edges, and that'll make a mark, and then you come back and cut it out. Or most of the time, especially if it's a small piece, I'll just take the end of a screwdriver and just go along like that right there, marking it. Then come back with a Caesars or a box knife and cut it out. Main thing is don't let it move on you, because if it moves, well, it ain't gonna be no count. Now for the holes, what I do is I'll just take my screwdriver and find the hole. You just work it back and forth like that. You can have a hole. Now the next one, I think, right there. And there's one right far. Anyway, you get the idea. Let me get this done and get it cut out, and we'll get this put back on the motor. Y'all might be wondering, well, why don't you just use pure RT&V with no gasket? And sometimes I do, but I don't like to, because RT&V will squish out and it don't leave you much there as far as gasket. This here, I've got a gasket, and then the RTV will take up any imperfections in the surface, and you probably can't really tell it, but this thing is really pitted. The head is really, really pitted. So the RTV will take those pits up, plus I got this big old gasket to help. Now let me show you how I knock these holes out real quick. I got this set of punches, and it's got various sizes. This one here needs to be the biggest one, and it still probably ain't really big enough, but it'll have to do. Anyway, you get you a block of wood, just like this. You set her on up here. You center that on your hole. And you whoop on it, and there's your hole. I do this first usually because sometimes if it's real close to an edge, it'll tear it. So you do this before you cut it out and you're less likely to tear it. Anyway, let me get this done and we'll go out there and get that motor put back together. And there is your homemade gasket. Let's go get this put on. Alright, I got everything RT and V'd. Let's put the gasket on and then get the water log on. Then we can tighten his head down. Right. Then you gotta push that radiator out of the way. Oop, wait a minute. Got to go to the other side. Alright, I got that one. Now, let me get this one here. Ta-da! There it is. Now, I guess we need to put the nuts on and torque the head down. What did I do with them? Here they are. There is no spec in the manual for torque or even a torque pattern. We got Mario, this was built in 1936. They might not even know what a torque wrench was back then. So what you do, I believe these are 1/2-inch studs. You look up online, the torque specs for a 1/2-inch nut, fine thread, because that matters too. And you really need to know the grade of the bolt. I'm gonna say these are, let's just call them a grade 5. That's probably what they are. Anyway, whatever that says, that's what I torque them to. And as far as the pattern, I just start in the middle and work my way out. Let me get these on, then we'll torque them down, 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 down. Upon further research, I can't really get a definitive answer for torque specs. So, small block Chevrolet uses 7/16 head bolts, and they're at 65 foot-pounds. These are half. I'm gonna go with 75 foot-pounds, and it should be more than enough because this thing ain't got 5 or 6 to 1 compression, if that much. So 75 foot-pounds it is. And like I said, I'm gonna go start in the middle and just work my way out. I'm not tightening them all the way down right now either. I'm just going about halfway, and then we'll torque them on the next go around. All right, let's got them. There's 3 under this water log and 1 right here. And I just have to put a wrench on. Well, I'll put a wrench on these and sort of gauge how tight they are. Then I'll get on them and do the same thing. About all you can do. I don't think it's super critical on this whole thing anyway. Anyway, now I got them tight. I'm gonna probably go over them again, check them one more time. But now, after I do that, it's time to put the valve train back on and get the valve lash set. I want to show y'all something real quick before I put this valve train back on. Watch how weak these springs are. I can push them down by hand. But the thing don't turn 1100-1200 RPM, so they don't really need to be all that stiff. You ever seen push rods that long? Pretty doggone long. Well, get that down in there. Oh, got that backwards. Come on now. Don't be acting up. Just one side. And get these flipped around like you go. Maybe that'll go in there after. Let's see. Gotta get this turned though. Oh, come on now. There. Nope, not yet. Got one that wants to be aggravating. Alright, then you put this spring right here. You got some space sores that go right here. And this goes right here. Now it's time to set the valving lash. So let me loosen all of them up first. I gotta get my wrench. Now I think, if I remember right, it's 12 to 14 thousandths. I don't have the book here, so I'm just gonna have to go off memory. If it doesn't seem right, well, then we'll go back into it and change them. Well, remember when I undid the radiator and slid it forward and leaned it forward and all that? Well, when I did that, I had to undo the crank mechanism under here too. Well, I've got to turn it over and get the valves, you know, where there's no tension on them before I can set the valve lash. So I got to get all this put back together first. So let me get that done. Ooh, alrighty, now I can do some valve adjusting. All right, for those who do not know how to adjust valve lash, well, let me show you just real quick. This is not in depth. Basically what you want to do, I'm doing this cylinder here. The easiest way is just get it on top dead center. That way there's no tension on either rocker arm. You get your feeler gauge. I'm setting mine to 12 thousandths. You get it between the rocker arm and the top of the valve stem. Then what you want to do is hit your adjuster right here. You work that feeler gauge back and forth till you start feeling its slight drag. Then get your wrench and you tighten down on that adjuster nut, and it's liable to move some when you tighten down. So you come back, check it, and that in there still feels good. But if it loosens up or tightens up, well, then you have to readjust it. But that is basically it in a nutshell. So let me get the rest of these done and I'll be right back. Valves are adjusted. Now I'm gonna put this valve cover back on. I'm gonna have to develop something to keep this from leaking so bad, but it ain't gonna happen today, because I'm gonna get this thing put back together and see if it's gonna run, see if it's gonna start better than it was. So that will just have to wait for another day. Now this is the aggravating part, to get it situated where it won't just profusely leak before you tighten it down, and it can be a pain. I think these nuts are bottoming out all the way too, so you can't really get no pressure on it. So yeah, that's going to have to be addressed. Anyway, that's all. Let me hook this line up, it's Earl line, real quick. All right, now I got to put the sparking plug wires back on. I know this is number 1 because it tells me it is. Then fire doors right here. 1, 3. 3 goes here. 4 would be this one here. 2 shout to go over here. Now I got that done. What is next? I guess we need to go on the other side and put the manifold on. I think so. Let's fight this manifold. Oh wait a minute, where's my gasket? Here it is here. See what, that looks kind of rough. I don't have another one. I'm gonna put a little bit of RT and V on this, I believe. Yep. All right, I got it RT and V'd. Only did the intake ports, so that's the only thing that really matters. That's the only thing to keep it from not running, put it that way. All right, here we go. Get on there. Oh yeah. Oh my thumb. Oh man, that hurts so bad. Oh golly. All right, we're on the home stretch here. Let me get this stuff here hooked back up, and I guess we'll be ready to put some water in it to see what it does. All right, now I have to put the steering back together and then get the water in it. Fuel line. I can't forget the fuel line. All right, now I gotta go put the timing lever on and tighten up a couple of hose clamps. We'll be done. We'll be ready to put water in it. Well, let me get this water in this radiator, and then we'll be ready to fire it up. Alrighty, that's the last of it. It needs just a little bit more. I reckon it's time to turn the gas on, see if it'll run. Alrighty, let's see if it'll start. Choke, forgot to choke. Let me turn that steering wheel. Alright, let's see if she'll start. Well, I gave it full timing. I hope it don't kick back. Well, I guess that didn't fix the start problem. It tried. I'm gonna let it sit here and run and warm up. Make sure I ain't got no major water leaks. Well, I don't see any leakages except for the valve cover right there, and I may work on that a little bit. Other than that, no leaky leaks, and it started up pretty good. I had to pull on it quite a bit, but it did better than what it's been doing. But to me, especially when you rev it up a little bit, it just don't sound like it's got enough timing, like it's running. Well, it just don't sound right. So tomorrow we may fool that timing a little bit, see if we can't advance it, and just see what it does to it. But for now, let's ride around the yard a little bit. Well, it's the next day again, and I want to do a cold start. Let's just see how it does, and then there's a couple of things I want to look at. All right, let's see if it start up 2 or 3 cranks or not. She hit right then. We might have it fixed. No, I guess so. Well, we'll give it a little more time and see if it likes that. apparently we haven't fixed that starting issue. Whew, I'm out of breath too. So I'm gonna windmill it. I'm gonna get it back over in the shade somewhere. Huh. I don't know what's wrong with the thing. Well, we got it under the shade tree. I'm a shade tree mechanic, so I guess that's fitting. Anyway, you've heard me say that I think the timing needs to be advanced a little more. I sort of think that's why it won't start. There's a little sequence you go through to set the timing. I want to advance that a little bit right here. But before we do that, I don't know if y'all noticed in that little short video from yesterday, riding it around, the governor, it don't want to do right. And the throttle, you really have to work it to get the throttle to move. Well, let me walk on the other side and show, well, let me show you this right here first. Here's your throttle rod right here from the handle up there. It comes to right here. All right, let me walk to the other side and show you something. It comes out of the governor on this shaft right here, and then it makes a 90, goes to the carburetor. Well, this mechanism here is probably most likely here. It don't move very freely, and I think that's why the governor don't work. I think that's why I have to work that throttle so much to get the throttle to move any. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take this apart and just see if anything's dirty. Might spray it down with something, try to free it up a little bit better. All right, I got the throttle linkage here. Took apart on that end, and I got the little cover off of here. And I'm gonna prop it up here, and y'all watch while I move the throttle. Moving the throttle, moving the throttle, moving the throttle. See, it won't move. Going back the other way. It don't want to move. So I think what it is, this one here, it's got like a little bushing surface in there, one down here. But I'm gonna take this spray. I'm gonna try to just get as much of it in the whole thing as I can. This looks like a grease fitting, but it don't unscrew. And well, I don't know what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna put that lube on both ends, and let's see if that don't help free it up some. Well, I put as much of that spray in there that I could. You can see it running out, and it's a lot better now. I can move the throttle. See it moving now. It ain't 100% better, but it's much better than it was. So maybe now that governor will work too. Let me put this back together, then we'll go over and see about advancing the timing just a little bit. All right, fellas, I believe that I'm onto something with this timing thing. Now you gotta remember, I set this thing up just exactly like the book says. I even looked it up online, same way. Anyway, what you're looking at, this hole, that's in the bell housing. That DC is for dead center. That's top dead center, number 1 cylinder. That's on the flywheel. All right, well, you rotate it the way it does when it's running, and you got EO, which is exhaust open, IO, which is intake open. Well, it may be exhaust closed. Anyway, it don't matter. Well, here is where that thing should fire when I'm trying to start it. That should start at top dead center. You don't want it advanced when you're trying to start it, because it can kick back, and trust me, it'll hurt. So you want it firing on top dead center. Well, it's firing way on past, right in this area here. And that's with the timing fully advanced. I'm gonna roll it around, and I'll probably have to slow it down so you can see it. But I want you to see when it's firing, it's way retarded. So we're gonna have to do a little something about that. But let me roll it around and show you when it's actually firing. You hear the click of the magneto is when it's firing. All right, now that we have established what the issue is, and that is the timing is way retarded, let me show you how the manual tells you to do it. They want you to get that DC right there in the center of that little window, and that means that number one cylinder is at top dead center on compression stroke. Well, then you come over here. There's 2 bolts that go in this coupler. I already got them out. Take them out, and then this little piece right here, take you some needle nose and you pick up on it, and that gets rid of that, I can't remember what you call it, that snapping that you hear that magneto does. That takes that out of gear. You want to do that so you can do this. You want to turn this right here by hand. You also want to have your lever all the way retarded, all the way up. Now what you do is you turn this, let's just say it's way over here. You want this pointing at number one cylinder. Number one is right here. So you bring it on over here till it gets starting to point to number one. And then they say, keep turning it until your points just start to open. And as far as I'm concerned, it's about right there somewhere. And that's how I set it. I did this numerous times. And apparently either I don't know what I'm doing or something's wore out in here. Anyway, what I'm going to do is forget all that and use common sense like I should have done to begin with. And we're going to keep adjusting this until we get that snap that you hear as soon as you see DC over there in the window. So let me work on that, and I'll be back when I get it. It may be a while though, I don't know. All right, fellas, I believe I got it about as close as I can get it. I'm gonna roll it around, and it should snap pretty close to DC. I heard it load up then. It's coming. That's so close that I'm not gonna fool with it anymore. I think it'll be good. I think the main issue with doing it the way the manual says is this right here. It's a judgment call of when the points just start to open. And I was just, you know, a little bit late on it. Anyway, let me get everything put back together, and we'll pull on that crank and see if it's any better. I attempted to fix this valve cover or make it a little bit better. It ain't happening today. You can see it leaking right there. I just wiped it off. It hangs over right here, and same thing on this end right there. Plus, it's not mashing down on that gasket very hard. So what I'm gonna do is when I start it up first thing, open that valve, let it have a little bit of oil, and shut that valve off. So it won't be leaking, and I'll have to fix that some other time. What we're gonna do right now is gonna see if fixing that timing is gonna make this thing start a little better. I'm not gonna choke it, because when I was turning it over, fooling with that timing, it was sucking gas. It was pouring out the bottom of the carburetor there. So I'm not gonna choke it this time. Let's see what happens. Make sure it's out of gear. Hang on. Alrighty, here we go. Well, apparently that didn't fix it. I do have gas pouring out. The choke is off, so I don't know what's going on. Give it a little more throttle. Not a clue. might have been flooded. That may be why it took so long to get started. Won't know until tomorrow morning when it's had time to cool off, and then you can do a cold start. But anyway, the throttle, it seems to work a little bit better. So let's get on this thing. I'm gonna try to video it, but I gotta hold the camera because it vibrates so bad that, well, you just can't see nothing. So I'm gonna try to hold the camera and let's take her for a little ride. All right, this should be interesting, trying to drive a tractor from the 1930s whilst holding a camera. Give her a little throttle. Turn that clutch grab good. Take it up a little hill, see if that governor's gonna do better. Well, it's been sitting here for about 5 or 10 minutes. Let's just see if the thing will start up. Fellers, I believe we got it figured out. She fired up first pull that time, and I didn't give it just a little time, and that lever up there, I just barely pulled it down and she fired right up. I won't be satisfied until I see it do that on the cold start, because I ain't kidding you, used to, it didn't matter hot or cold, she'd fire right up to a 3 pull. So tomorrow morning I'm going to do a cold start, but that won't be on the video because we're fixing to load this up and the John Deere and head to the Thresherman show with them. The governor, more specifically, that throttle link is going to the carburetor. It's some better, it still ain't quite right. The governor won't pick it up when it gets under load, and it's just something else we'll have to work on. This old tractor, she's wore out. She's got a lot of work that needs to be done to it, and the only thing you can do, just do a little at a time. Eventually you'll get it all. Like I said, we're fixing to load this one up and the old John Deere and head to Adams to the Thresherman show. If you live in the area, come on down Friday, Saturday, look for me. I'll be in a red golf cart with a white top. Stop me and say hi. Anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you don't mind, hit the like, comment, subscribe. Share it with your friends. And until next time, go do something. Bleep, bleep.